So, I mean, we're starting to see this sort of apartheid type vaccination system where, you know, if you're vaccinated, you get certain privileges. If you're unvaccinated because, you know, you don't want to take the vaccine or you have natural immunities because you already had COVID, you're going to be denied certain privileges.
I literally cannot put into words how unbelievably shameless and evil what she just said was. And there can really only be one explanation for why she's saying this. The only reason Republicans compare things like mask mandates and vaccine mandates to things like the Nazis and the apartheid regime is because what they want to do is very similar to what those governments did. They are already busy denying people the right to vote and throwing people in jail for no reason and running concentration camps for migrant workers and violating the rights of indigenous people. They were already doing that. The only reason why they're trying to make a comparison between those governments and vaccine mandates is because they are trying to underplay the seriousness of how horrific those genocidal regimes were. Because let's be clear about what happened under apartheid South Africa. Apartheid South Africa literally had a top secret chemical and biological warfare program specifically targeted towards the indigenous black population in South Africa, where they intentionally exposed people to cholera and provided anthrax to the racist Rhodesian army.
She doesn't make any mention about any of the patients that she has in her practice as to whether or not any of them already had it and whether or not natural immunity suffices and meets that mandate, nor have I really heard this anywhere else. I really wish that's not science. That's not science. The coercion and bullying is not science if we're going to have a discussion about following the science.
And this is ridiculous. Look at her. She's saying follow the science. I can tell you this. Look, I have a master's degree in biosecurity and biodefense. I know a thing or two about policy making when it comes to public health. And I gotta tell you this is very important. Vaccines work at a population level by lowering the population-based risk of exposure and susceptibility to a virus. It only works if enough people are vaccinated. That is how, ultimately, you need to stop a pandemic. It's how we stop smallpox. So there is an obvious policy conclusion there, right? What is the obvious policy conclusion? The obvious policy conclusion is if you need 90% of the population to get vaccinated in order for the vaccine to truly have the effect we want it to have, then you have to put in place vaccine mandates. That policy is the natural consequence and conclusion of the science.
No, it's very important. You don't have to explain. You don't have to tell me. Listen, here's how I feel about that. If you're not going to get vaccinated, you don't want to social distance, you don't want to wear a mask, then maybe you don't want to go to the hospital when you get sick. I know that sounds harsh, but you're taking up the space for people who are doing things the right way. You and I both agree on this is going to be between the vaccinated and the unvaccinated moving forward in this country. And I just think if you don't want to play by any of those rules and then all of a sudden you end up in the hospital, I feel bad that but maybe you shouldn't go and take up the resources from someone else. That's it. So you don't have to apologize for taking up the time. I
feel so bad for him. You know, our kids are almost the same age. 3 girls he has, obviously we got the 2 girls and Mario, but 18, 16, and 9, the mother fighting like that, the father feeling like the only thing he could do is just plead to people to understand what they're doing, what they're taking from families. That time is so precious. Stage 4 cancer, any time you can get with your kids at that age, with your husband.
Yep.
I just don't know what's going to get through to people.
What's up, everybody? Major Retired Richard Ojeda here. And across this country, we have people dying because they cannot get into a hospital. Why? Because the hospitals are jam-packed full of COVID patients. And 99% of those patients are there because they chose to be. They chose not to get vaccinated. And you're damn right, I agree with Don Lemon. You don't want to get vaccinated? Fine, that's your choice. But don't you go taking a bed from a sick child, from a cancer patient, from somebody who broke their legs because they fell off of a ladder. This is just one of the many reasons why we need our hospitals to be available and open. In Texas, elective procedures have been suspended because the hospital system is crashing. And what that means is that child who's in pain because they need their tonsils removed is going to have to wait. And let that sink in for all of you anti-vaxxers. That child in Texas cannot go to the hospital because a grown adult made the decision because he heard from his good old buddy Carl, who didn't even graduate from high school, that the vaccine was not safe, that the vaccine infringes upon their freedoms. Their freedoms of what? To breathe oxygen? to not be intubated? Do you know what it means to be intubated? Did your buddy Carl explain to you that doctors intubate people because they can't breathe? You know, they take a tube and they shove it so far down your throat. It goes past your mouth, down your throat, and almost into your chest. Does that sound comfortable to you? Is that how you want to die? Alone, by the way, because COVID wards, your spouse isn't allowed to be there. Your children, your loved ones, they're not there. They're not allowed to be. COVID kills. And if that's what you want, well, that's your choice. But don't go begging to doctors and hospitals to give you the vaccine once you've got COVID, because that's not how it works.